You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today we have an ADHD episode, of course, and I would like to discuss today how when we're having an ADHD symptom, like forgetting, or having a hard time multitasking, it's interesting to people who have had the diagnosis for a long time and they're well aware of exactly how things in their brain work, that it doesn't take much at all for them to notice, right? Like the differences. And the thing that from my own experiences that I notice is that I can get extremely frustrated when one of my symptoms appears and it causes an obvious issue, right? Like I go and I make I make a really big deal about making sure that when I'm going on a walk, I'm taking my dog out to the park, and I like to listen to music or to podcasts while I'm walking, and so it's a nice way of enjoying the time, and it's a little different, like a lot of people, they like to just listen to music in the car or when they're on their own or in the house or on a bus or something, right? Like to kind of drown out noises. I do it because it kind of gives me a sense of purpose, like a feeling that I'm doing the most with my time. Like how, like I used to think that I was, if I weren't doing as much as possible, that I was wasting time and that I wasn't making the most out of my day or out of life, right? And so I would end up, and I used to think that was like a mental illness. There was something about me that, like a trauma or a part, right? Like a triggered part that felt that he had to have his phone and his my iPad or tablet open at the same time, and watching TV and having a snack and constantly going back from all three. So to the tablet, to the phone, watching TV, just constantly having my mind going. And I always used to think that was a part, like some sort of like a CPTSD issue or being scared of something. And I noticed that later on in life when I was, evaluating it and thinking about it in the moment, is that it wasn't a trauma part. It was something to do with my ADHD, because I got easily distracted. Being an inattentive ADHD diagnosee, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, and you sit back and you think about the reality of it. That's the thing, is that because I have ADHD and I am strongly inattentive, I get distracted easily. So if I'm just watching a TV show by itself or a movie by itself, and I'm not doing anything else, there's a good chance that my brain, I'm going to get pulled away from what I'm currently working on or doing, like watching the show, and I'm going to completely lose where I am. And I'm not going to remember anything about that part or half the movie, because I've gone through movies where I have like literally had it go from start to finish, and I have a hard time remembering a lot about it, or it feels like it went from start to finish and there was no substance, or I didn't, I couldn't remember anything that happened during the movie. Like I fell asleep. And it was extremely frustrating at times because I'd be really into the movie, and even then, like even if I was really into it, like I wanted to see this movie at home. I'm sitting in a big comfy chair. I've got my pop. I've got my snack. I would have thought to myself that I'd be able to fully pay attention to the movie and to be able to remember every little detail, be fully into it, not miss a beat, not have anything fly by me and go, hey, what happened here? What am I missing? Right? Because that obviously happens a lot. And so I was thinking here that if it was a good movie, like if it was one of those ones that I was looking forward to and I really enjoyed and I really liked that actor or the theme of the movie, that I shouldn't have a problem. Now, going to the theater and watching a movie is one thing, because I was, it's a different atmosphere, different environment. The lights are off. In the back of your mind that you can't just make noise. You're not able to get up. You can't be looking at your phone, talking about stuff while the movie's going on. So it kind of forces you to change your behavior. And so that's what I would do. But what would end up happening is, especially if the movie was starting to drag a bit, like even in the theater, my mind would start to drift and I would start thinking about anything. Like I would start thinking about my health. I would start thinking about the next day. Like if it was the summer, like let's say it was Christmas holidays, and I had this happen once. I think it was December 30th or something. And I went to see a movie with my dad, and I wasn't feeling great. Like I was kind of feeling off. And I remember sitting in the theater and I had a hard time really paying attention to the movie. And it was because my brain was focusing on all sorts of things. And the movie was not exactly the most important part, right? Like it wasn't, of all the things that were going on, the movie was definitely not the most important focus. So I was sitting there and I was thinking about how my body was feeling and saying to myself, geez, I feel kind of weird. I've got really tense and tight fingers, and my hands feel funny and my body feels funny. And I was examining myself, not like physically, like touching and everything, but mentally in my head, I was examining the way my body was feeling and the sensations. And then I was, on top of that, if I was getting distracted again, because maybe it was scaring me too much, I would start thinking about the holidays coming to an end real soon and realizing, geez, I've only got 2 or 3 more days and then I'm back to work. And I hate that. I wish these 2 weeks didn't go by so fast. So I had no ability to truly stay focused in the movie. And the strange thing is when it ended and when I was going home, I really didn't remember a whole lot later about it. And it's mostly because I wasn't able to stay focused. And being an ADHD person like myself, it's very easy to lose track of what you're doing and what you're watching and have no to little memory of what you saw. Like you remember that you watched the movie, right? Like if I thought about it for a few minutes, I could probably remember what the movie was that I went to see. But I wouldn't remember any of the details about it because I have no actual memory of what I saw because I was so focused in on what was going on in my head that whole time, that very little of it was really, really stuck in there. And so that's kind of happened with a lot of things. Like if I'm not feeling right, if my body's feeling off, or I've got a trigger and I'm kind of feeling scared about something, or I'm obsessing about something that I have no control over, there's a good chance that there's all the symptoms that are going to come out. I'm going to be forgetful. I'm going to be absent-minded. I'm not going to be thinking about anything. Like, and when I say I'm not going to be thinking about anything, I'm saying I'm not going to be like thinking about one particular subject and staying on that subject. It's my mind's going to fluctuate and race all over the place. It'd be like if I put 20 images or 20 different, we'll say toys or something in front of me, right? And they were equally appealing. I would have a next to impossible time just thinking about one at a time. Like it would be like grabbing the first one and going, oh, and then grabbing the second one and grabbing the eighth one and kind of going, oh, wow. And then, like never being able to stay on one too long. That's how my brain would work, is that it would obsess about the main factor of the problem for a certain period of time. And then it would just fly off its hinges, right? Like it would be 10 different things, and it would either be one after the other or random, or they would be all at once, and there'd be things getting mixed up, getting all over the place, and not being able to really focus on any of them. And I would be completely dissociated or distracted. Like it would almost be like you could sit there and watch as things are going on, and it would be like I'm off in my own little world. Right? Like you could literally see my eyes are either just moving around and I'm wide, like, your eyes are wide open and you're really focused on like physically the eyes are focused on one thing. And that's how I would do it, is that I would focus on one image or one object, and my brain would just run, and there'd be all these different things going on. And it would be like one after the other, and just flying in and out, and making not making any sense whatsoever, and just running around and going this way and that way and fast and noise, and it would just be like going all over the place. And so it was no wonder that I would easily lose track of a conversation, especially and the thing is it would happen even if I was the only one involved with the other person in the conversation. I would easily have this, it would be easy for me to just lose the point or lose in the conversation where we are. Like, and then I would forget, I would forget something that was said literally 5-10 seconds ago. And it would have to do with what's being discussed currently. And so my mind, well, first off, I'd be embarrassed. I really didn't want to say anything to anybody, not many people are really eager to go, hey, I got distracted and I forgot. Sorry, could you repeat that again? In a confident voice saying, yeah, it's no big deal. A lot of us are too embarrassed to say anything. And we either try to fake it and pretend and try to, hopefully we get lucky and we're able to stay with it and say the right thing in response to not look like we're completely lost, or we're just kind of it's hard to explain, I guess, in some way. I've had conversations where I'm trying as hard as I can to listen, and I'm the information's going into my head. And it's like I'm getting what's happening. It's coming in, and I focus on it, and I kind of think about it as that person's talking, and I'm going, right, So you can kind of hear in my voice the tone and the inflection that's coming out is indicating to the ordinary person, they wouldn't really understand. They wouldn't notice this, or it wouldn't make any sort of big deal to them. So they wouldn't go, "Hey, something's going on here." But to somebody who is well versed with this sort of thing, they'd be able to notice that I would be like thinking and trying to follow what is being said at the same time. And the bad thing is that I have a very difficult time doing both equally as well, to stay with the conversation and to remember what's being said, and to know what I have to say. So it's a lot of times it was either like my main focus. I'd either have to listen to the person and hear what they're saying, but have a difficult time being able to come up with a decent enough response that it sounds like that A, I'm paying attention, B, I care, and C, I know how to give a response that's adequate to satisfy the need that they're looking, like what they're looking for. Because a lot of people, and I do this, I get into a conversation with people, and if I'm, and it's funny how it happens so easily. I lose kind of lose track of what's going on. I'm not like behind in the conversation. I'm not going, "Oh, could you slow down? I can't follow," right? You're talking too fast for me. I'm following it and I'm hearing the words, but a lot of times certain things that have been said, I'm kind of going, what? But I don't say it out loud. My mind is working hard on that particular one word or one sentence that was said in the moment, while I'm trying to listen to the rest of the conversation. And so I end up losing my spot. I have a difficult time coming up with anything decent to say in response. So a lot of times my responses are like, "Right, okay, that's cool," or "That makes sense," or "Yeah, I see." And it's a lot of one or two, maybe the odd 3-word response to what has been said to you, because you have a difficult time. And that's the thing, is I have a difficult time hearing and listening to what's been told to me, being able to comprehend it in real time, and come up with a response that's going to sound intelligent and adequate right then and there to answer or to satisfy what they're looking for, like the response that they're looking for. I do have a difficult time doing that. And it seems like if I've had a long day, if I'm tired, or if like my head hurts a bit, or I'm not feeling well, it's even harder. Like it's a lot more difficult to do that even then, because I have to focus harder. I have to work even more on having the ability to hear what's being said and comprehend it, and then say something back that's going to be satisfactory to them, so that they don't begin to think that this person doesn't really care, they're not focusing, they're not listening to me. What's the point? Right? Like that's what they don't want. They don't want to sit there and go, "Well, this guy obviously doesn't have any interest in what I'm saying. He's just trying to be polite, but he's doing a really poor job of showing interest. I'm just going to stop talking." And that's, like, I try hard to make this, to avoid that kind of thing. It's very difficult, especially when you've got a lot going on. If you're in a noisy area, like I sometimes have been in locations like a bar or a nightclub, or even a restaurant, where they've got music, or they just got the general background noise from people and the kitchen and the TVs going. And it's next to impossible to properly listen to somebody and hear what they're saying and being able to block out the noise. Like, I used to think that I was really good at blocking out excess noise, that I could I honestly thought I could do this. I thought I could listen to different conversations. Like, I could hear the person over there and I could focus on that. And then I could look at that person, or I could hear another conversation and I could change my focus and listen to that. And then if there was a person with me talking about something, that I could channel in all that focus ability on her or him and listen to that person and be able to hear everything. As I got older, that was not the reality. I didn't even realize to the degree of how difficult it was getting for me, that I'd be in a noisy room, or I'd be, somewhere where there's a lot of background excess noise, and I would have a hell of a time understanding what was being said. Like, it wasn't it's one thing to be told, let's say they tell you something that has about, 40 words in it, a couple sentences. You could hear and listen and hear every single word, and you could probably, repeat back a good portion of it. But the problem wasn't hearing all the words. It was taking those words in my mind, understanding with all the background and all the excess noise and all the stuff going on, understanding the point of what was being said, comprehending and making something out of it, and then coming up with an answer that was satisfactory to them, to make it look like I followed what was being said and I gave it the correct response, or a good, proper response to what they've said. That was an extremely difficult thing. And it still is. And it seems to be even more difficult today than it was 10, 15 years ago. Imagine, right? You're sitting there and you're in a noisy location, and you've got someone sitting next to you, even across from you, just literally a few feet away. And there's all the noise in the background and everything going on. And you can hear them. You can see the movement of their mouth. You can hear the words coming out of their mouth. The volume is good, but you're having a difficult time understanding. Have you ever been told by someone, "You're not listening to me," or "You're hearing me, but you're not actually listening to me"? That's what it seemed to feel like for me often, was that I could hear the person. I could hear the words. I knew what they were saying, literally, you know what I mean? If they were talking about the time of the year and how it's so cold and they were having so many cold days, I could hear those words and I knew that that's what they were saying, but I wasn't necessarily understanding the message that they were trying to say to me or get across. So either I would be sitting there kind of going, I'm not sure what to say in response. And so now you kind of look stupid, or the person goes, "Gee, this guy's not very intelligent. I just told him a bunch of stuff that should be easy, and he's just not getting it, or he doesn't know what to say. What's the point?" Right? Or they get frustrated, or maybe they repeat it because, it's important. So, and that's often what's going on, is that my brain is just, it's like the gear is spinning, but it's not catching all the divots or whatever you call them in order to move the engine smoothly. It's missing every fifth or sixth gear. It's missing in there, and so it moves like the engine moves, but it's not moving at the right efficiency. It's not going 100%. It's maybe, let's say, going 70%, right? And if you don't realize this, or if you don't know any better, either you think you're just, you don't think you're very smart, and the other person is probably not going to think you're very smart either. And then, you start to feel like you have no self-confidence. You don't ever think that you're capable of speaking to anybody, or because you're afraid that you're not gonna understand what they're saying, and you're not going to be able to make any comments or responses that are intelligible or sound smart, and you just end up avoiding having conversations with people because this is your fear, right? This is what you think is going to happen again and again, because the more often that you have this problem where I'm not able to I'm not able to understand necessarily what's being said, and I don't make the right response, or I make a response that sounds completely irrelevant to what's being said. It had nothing to do with it. It wasn't a very smart comment, or maybe it was totally wrong. And, you become self-conscious to the point where you're just like, maybe if I just don't talk, I'm not going to look like a fool, right? Or I'm not going to sound like I'm stupid, because I'm not. It's just that I'm having some problems. And that's what's happening. And a lot of people go through that. They get into a situation where they have a hard time paying attention to the person talking. And like I said, it could be because of outside distraction, all the noises, all the interference. You're easily distracted. Stuff all over the place pulls your mind away, and it even like I said, all it takes is a few seconds to pull your mind away, and you're shot, because you lose track of what's being said, and now you can't keep up, and you have to catch up, which is extremely difficult because you've already missed so many of the words that were said to you. How do you do it? It's extremely hard, unless you've got an extremely caring person who's very understanding and very forgiving, and is willing to maybe say it a few times so that you understand. It's going to awfully quick become embarrassing, and you're going to start to feel extra self-conscious about your ability to speak and listen and comprehend what's being said to you. It doesn't take much for you to just have no desire to get involved with conversations. And the sad part is this affects your ability to have relationships, have friendships, to do your work, to get ahead in life. Because if you have no self-confidence, and you're very self-conscious about your abilities to listen and speak, or make correct responses, or make sense, you're going to end up isolating yourself, and you miss a lot of opportunities because you're too scared to try and change it from the last time. You automatically think, oh, I can't do this. This is just no good. I'm not even going to bother. What's the point? That's what happens to many of us with ADHD, especially inattentive, is we just lose that ability to have any desire to want to be involved. And we isolate, and we start to look like we're antisocial. We have no desire to talk to anybody, or to get to know anybody, or be friendly. And we just become reclusive and isolate, and we don't have friends because we're scared of revealing ourselves. We're scared of showing people what our disability is and how it affects our life. It really does suck. And there we have it. Another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD completed. I hope this episode was a good and informative episode for my audience members. This is something that I'm trying to make sure that everybody understands that is going to be helpful for them to avoid making mistakes that I've made in my life. If you found this to be a great episode, then there are a number of ways that you can help me out with my situation. You can go to patreon.com and look for Living with ADHD and CPTSD and become a member of my Patreon group. You could also go to ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com, and you can donate there. Just look for Living with ADHD and CPTSD. If you would like to contact me, if you've got some comments or feedback, or you just want to chat, there's a number of ways you can contact me. You can go to Twitter, and my handle is at ADHD and CPTSD, You can also email me. The address is livingwithadhdandcptsd@gmail.com. You can also go to my website, livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca, and you can contact me through there. I really hope this was a great episode for you guys. If you have any suggestions of future episodes, by all means, please get in touch with me. That's really it. I hope that my advice can be helpful for you and, make things better for everybody. All right. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.